It's Sunday, big 4-day, meaning that we'll be going over Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP, doing the long-term top-down analysis, carrying on with the same thread of analysis that we've been having for nearly a year now. And we'll start it off with Solana right here. Solana continuing to operate in this lower block. I suspect that the LARP lines that we drew out over the past week are still, more or less likely to play out, but going to take time. And in this case, Solana, I suspect, still probably has another test somewhere down around the lows, but I don't think it's going to break down. I don't think you're going to see new lows on this next move to the downside. I do think that it's generally going to be a bounce move, and it's going to completely depend upon how high this next bounce gets, whether I will remain bullish for the long term or bearish. I do suspect it'll at least get to about 214, 215-ish region based off the 382 here. I mean, that is just, a very easy target to be having on these sort of range moves. But it's the 50% level that is very important for the long term, which is 227, or let's just call it 228. As long as Solana is below there on a monthly closing basis, which it has not closed below just yet. We still have a little under 2 weeks left for the month of February, but if things do end below there, that'd be a little bit problematic. But essentially in the next week and a half, I do expect that this thing will have a decent bounce here. I don't think that we're going to see a real true breakdown. But also on the note of the importance of that 227-ish region is the monthly stochastic momentum, which will actually continue to the downside if Solana does close below there. So if that were to happen by end of month, then sure, I suppose, March, April, something like that, we probably do see Solana take a leg lower and you see it back down around 140 to 120-ish region. But for right now, still need to give it a chance, or at least I would need to give it a chance. And, even if you're super bullish, super bearish, I think you're going to be spending a lot of time within this general range that you've been in since, late November. And we won't get resolution until probably March, if I had to guess. I should point out, however, that the weekly jewel is getting a pretty nasty continuation signal to the downside here. Obviously, this, again, can take some time to play out, but barring a heroic reclaim of that 227-ish region again by end of month, I would say that is actually a breakdown setup. Again, these things can take time to play out. In fact, that's where I'm finding a lot of people have trouble with analysis, is that the time for a move to play out versus the time that a move gets confirmed, or very likely confirmed, meaning that it has a high probability of playing out. That can obviously, it naturally takes time. It doesn't happen all in one fucking day. Otherwise, we literally just see the market go in one direction for forever. Obviously, that's not true. But let's move on now into XRP. This one already playing out a similar bounce, the same bounce that we spoke about, I believe, last week. XRP actually kind of doing what you would hope Solana does. So perhaps this can be, I guess a bit of a mirror here as to what the future hopefully looks like for Solana. This one's already bounced up to the 50% retracement level at 278, which we were looking at as very likely coming into this week. I do think that things pull back here a little bit, even if you're super bullish, or of course, if you're super bearish, then of course you expect to pull back. But even if you're super bullish, I do expect that it does pull back from this region. And really what I'd be mindful of is that it, as long as it's above about 240-ish region, you still have higher lows. So pull back, maybe it comes down to 265, maybe it comes all the way down to 240, but either which way, that'd be fine. I'd still be looking at higher lows right there. And generally, this one to have one more try higher. Of course, if it can start to close above 292 on that next move, I would say this thing is, it's going to retest the highs, which is around 320 to 340-ish region. And at that point, it's in a position to actually break out to new all-time highs. But going over momentum also, whoops, I'm just drawing damn lines right now. My apologies. But going over momentum also it is right now, kind of actually does disagree with me about a short-term pullback. Let's see, daily time frame stochastic momentum remains to the upside as long as it's above 247, which is healthily above right now. So maybe it has one more try to the upside in the short term. I don't think it's going to actually reclaim this region on that move. Thus, a pullback still very likely, but again, I'm not calling new lows on that one, similar to Solana. But of course, XRP is certainly more powerful, more strong relative to Solana, at least in the short term. Here's what I really wanted to focus on with XRP, though. 5-day time frame, weekly time frame, both have hidden bullish divergence in place here. So overall, any sort of a pullback, if it even happens to begin with, I mean, it could very well be wrong on that, should be an opportunity, and this one should, again, get another try. I mean, just based off of this, I suppose that would be, around the prior highs, 320 to 340-ish region. But again, that can take some time to play out. The weekly is actually technically not confirmed just yet, but if it does close above last week's high at 279, which it's not too far away from right now, it will certainly confirm that, alongside, actually not an engulfing right here, but a very powerful dildo formation nonetheless. And again, I'd have to be looking for a retest of the highs, probably even new highs after that point, I suppose. But take one before the other first. Again, long term, I'm just not going to be bearish on this as long as it's above, well, especially your 3rd of February low. I mean, that's kind of the same area for most assets, most of the crypto assets in this market. But again, if it does want to play at a pullback, it can. I guess some of the higher term timeframes are disagreeing with me on that sentiment, but overall, very likely as one would try towards those prior highs. And then we come back to it after that. Again, does this play out this week, next week? Who knows? I would imagine likely before the end of February, though. Or by the end of February. Anyways, moving on from there, let's get into Ethereum. We'll actually look at the Ethereum Bitcoin pairing as well, just because I think it's rather interesting. A lot of people have been talking about it recently as well. But going off of the this is actually a bi-weekly chart right here. Similar to Solana, it's like, can it retest around these lows in the next week? Sure, but I'm not looking for a breakdown here. I do think that it will get another rally above this $3,000 region, very likely. Probably by end of month. If it rallies back to 3,600, that would be about right, I suspect. But looking at lower term time for momentum oscillators, it's like, you can get a wick to the downside. Again, if it retested around 2,400, like, that's fine. That doesn't do anything for me. I don't think that you're making new lows here just yet, even if this does turn out to be bearish. I think that it's going to take a lot of time within this region, which has been operating in basically for a year, since March of 2024. It's really done fuck all, pretty much. But short-term time frames starting to turn around, so I do think that it's in for a bounce similar to what we saw for XRP, and also kind of what I'm looking for on Solana as well. Again, that can include a retest somewhere around these lows in the short term, but I would really be looking for it to bounce significantly after that, as momentum also start to switch around into an upwards posture. I mean, the daily time frame is also breaking this long-term regression that has been holding in the highs since January. The 5-day time frame is about to have a fresh cross the upside if this thing can close above 2680, which it is above right now, to be fair. And the weekly time frame is down right now. Obviously, we're going to be getting a new weekly, so we'll see where that momentum pivot comes in for next week. Right now, it's at 3,300, so very unlikely to reclaim that. But again, going sideways here does bode better for the BULLISH than the bearish, at least for another big bounce. Again, probably around the end of this month. I wouldn't be surprised to see this thing like 3,600, and then come back to it after that. But just like the other ones, the monthly is very, very, very important, at least in my eyes. And I really, in order to be long-term bullish on Ethereum, like long-term bullish, talking about potential for long-term new all-time highs, these sort of things, like a month or two down the road, perhaps, I would really want to see Ethereum close above the monthly pivot here, which is 2,900, or a little bit below 2,900. So it's got a little bit of work to do. Again, if it does bounce to the areas that I'm kind of suggesting over here, obviously that will be met, but it needs to do that by the month's end. There's been a lot of talk about Ethereum Bitcoin pair. We've looked at this one, obviously, over the past like 5 years, and it's basically been down. It's basically been down since 2022. Without any like major monthly bounces, and it has come down to what I would kind of consider like the most bearish of targets at 2.25 million satoshis. Now, I think a lot of people have been speaking about this recently, and I think a lot of people are also suggesting that it is bottoming here. I think you are finding a bottom here, but I do want to address something, because look, like, if you're really long-term, does DCAing make sense here? I guess, if you're very long-term, if you're willing to hold for years, I expect. But what I think a lot of people are expecting is like, oh, the bottom was hit, so it's going to do this. Like, no, Very unlikely. I do think that this thing will bounce here, but this is a monthly. It's gonna take time. Like this can take 3, 4, 5 months to play out, but we are starting to see monthly stochastic momentum flip around. I mean, it's technically not flipped around just yet, but it will, as long as Ethereum Bitcoin pair is trading where it's at right now or higher by end of month, and that would be good enough for at least going sideways and then putting in a bounce, maybe like maybe March, but probably more like April, May. But long term, I think it's. I think it might be a very long time, like perhaps more than a year, if even that, that it could even possibly get back above, the prior macro breakdown region, which was at about 4.9 million satoshis. So as long as you're below there, kind of hard to love long term. And this is, by all intents and purposes, a downtrend. Like I think that a lot of people have rose-colored goggles with Ethereum for the long term because you were in 2017, you saw the ICO craze, saw Ethereum go crazy. 2021 Ethereum I think went a little bit less crazy, but people still obviously loved it. But the days of this thing being like a major player, I mean, obviously it can be a major play because, it does have a massive market cap and that's probably not going away. But the days of it being like a major player in the sense that it's a very exciting asset, I don't know, man. I don't know. I wouldn't be counting on it, or at least not anytime soon. As long as you're above this, this level right here, below this level right here, it's just very fucking hard to love in this case. So yeah, let's actually look at Solana. Solana, what was it? Solana Ethereum or Solana versus, what the fuck? There's some sort of, I think there's like, my phone. Okay. I got an Amber Alert on my phone. Some kid's been abducted. Did you know that they give you alerts on your phone so that you can maybe help? Elsa's shocked about this information. Was it the Sol ETH pairing? Was that the one that I'm looking for? Yeah, that's the one that I'm looking for. Still think that this one's put in a high here. I do think that Ethereum will actually gain versus Solana, and it will gain versus Bitcoin as well. It's just, I don't think it's entering into like a long-term macro uptrend from where it's at, or at least that's going to take like a long time to really formulate itself. But a bounce, over the next half year, like, yeah. And Solana Ethereum coming down, during that period of time as well, most likely yes as well. Looking at the monthly, I mean, that is crazy. Like they make your phone, like my phone's on fucking silent and it did that. Anyways, anyways, looking at it right here, yeah, fuck that girl. No, kidding. I'm joking. Okay, it's a very bad joke, very bad joke. But really, you can't be interrupting these very serious and important Magic Internet Money videos. Because the people need to know. The people need to know that Ethereum is going to do very little. The people need to know that the market is going sideways, for quite some time longer, in this massive range. But yeah, Solana, Ethereum, I do think that this thing's putting in a high here. Again, momentum turning down at the highs on a reversal dildo as well. This again is going to take a long time to play out, but this thing should come down theoretically somewhere around like 0.04 butyrols, I guess. I don't know what the denominating currency is here. Vitalik butyrol. Anyways, we'll end on Bitcoin. As always, I like to just check in very quickly on the weekly HBDR. This is the indicator that I always like to look at, first, whenever I'm just trying to get like a general idea of where an asset is in the short term, and get, and get ranges. And looking at the weekly, we should acknowledge first, CME did not close above actually did close above the median by a fucking nano, man, by a fucking nano. 97,555 closure, median was 97,527. So, again, I do think that bodes well for Bitcoin long term. I don't think it's going lower from here. I do think that it can spend some time going sideways, obviously. Probably next move is a bounce, but extrapolating that into spot price action, I wouldn't be getting super excited about this thing continuing on with the bull market. The bull market until I know the median here is like at 101, but really as long it needs to get back above last week's high, which is about 102.5 above there. Yeah, I mean, this is very obviously bullish. I'm curious if we're starting to see hidden bullish evidence on the weekly formulate as this does start to look a lot more like a higher low. There is certainly potential for hidden bullish divergence because we do see that the weekly RSI is making lower lows, but again, needs to come back above last week's high for that one to be confirmed. So again, probably going to take a little bit of time here. Maybe it happens this week. If it does, I still think we're probably waiting until the end of February. But I think that generally keeps the bull market hopes alive for new all-time highs. Of which I put out a video about a week ago going over my projections or my price predictions for this cycle high, which we'll see if that happens. I suppose if things are going to continue up, then you kind of expect this to happen, like the action to happen the last week of this month. Anyways, that is all to say. In for some more boringness in the short term, but a lot of these things setting up for bounces. It's just, I don't think that these bounces are carrying them to new all-time highs, just continuing on with the range. So I think that's where we leave off for today. I want to say a massive thank you to all of the Tampa recommendations. This city's great. This city's super nice. We love it. So that's awesome. A lot of people have reached out with like things to do and place to see and place to go. A lot of people like Clearwater, St. Petersburg as well. So we're looking at checking those out too. But yeah, that's enough from me today. As always, I want to wish you the best. Take care. Much love, and see you hopefully Monday.